Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. Thank you so much for joining us. Approximately 95% of the healthy population have Epstein-Barr virus, also known as EBV. And for most of the people, this virus just live dormantly in our bodies. However, EBV can actually trigger infectious mononucleosis, also called mono. And this is why we're really excited to have Dr. Kasia Kines to join us. Like many factors like environmental toxicants can actually modify EBV behavior. So Dr. Kines is the founder and CEO of the Global EBV Institute and author of the best-selling book, The EBV Solution. We're going to ask Dr. Kines about deconstructing EBV, handling stress associated with the EBV, and Dr. Kines' EBV Recovery Program. So I'm hoping.
Yes, I'm delighted to be here. I just looked at what your company does, and you may not know, before EBV, I specialized in detoxification, like the proper one and gentle one and all the toxins and all that. It ties into EBV as well. So I'm delighted. Thank you for reaching out.
No, thank you so much. This is like such a music to our ears. So thank you for joining. So tell us a little bit about your background, like how you became an EBV expert.
Um, when the student is ready, the teachers appear. I had a very dear friend of mine who fought and lost a 20 years battle with multiple sclerosis and back in Poland, and I felt like I failed her. So I always ask the universe, why her? Why? And, I have a lot of friends, and one of my colleagues was a medical intuitive. I had to ask her the question. And she says, yeah, it felt like the trigger point was EBV. But at that point, I didn't know. So I always had this heartache for her. And I was always thinking about this. And then it's just, the universe just made sure. I had a dream about Marlena sitting in an empty conference room in the last corner, like last chair, all alone, and me on the stage, empty. And she was just sitting and just so happy for me and so proud of me. It's like, oh. And so I think she made sure that I walked the path, and and the rest is history. I just, once I started to connect the dots and things came into my lap, like things one after the other, I couldn't ignore it. And so at a certain point, I felt I had the responsibility to do something about it. I had to write the book, which is like 600 pages, and I was the last person to write a book, let me tell you. Like, what? I don't have a life. I work too much. I've never written a book. What are you talking about? No, it's a book that needed to be written, so I sat down and wrote it. And yeah, I mean, I just was very lucky to even get the right training here and there, because there's no training. But it was just enough. It's like you go from New York to California at night driving, and you only see 300 feet with a light in front of you, but you keep driving and just follow that light. You don't have to know the whole path. It's going to unfold. That's how it's been, and we're still going.
That is amazing. It seems that you got the sign and then all the stars aligned.
You have to live your way this way. I mean, I could have said no. But my husband was on me, my mentors, the director of the doctoral program was on me, like everyone, my community, everyone was on me. When are you going to write that book? It's like, what book? But then I thought, somebody will write it, and it needs to be done properly to honor everyone, and especially Marlena. So okay, I have to do it.
I love it. So now you have like all kinds of program associated with the program, and then you also have this like approach, food is medicine approach.
Of course.
How does how does that play a role in your specialization of EBV recovery using food?
Well, if you zoom out 30,000 miles, if you look at research and if you look at what we know about human body, up to 80% of chronic illness is just a symptom of certain deficiencies. Too much crop, too many toxins, and not enough nutrients. And, a woman can have PMS and anxiety attacks. It may be magnesium deficiency. I mean, this is just, I'm oversimplifying, but that's what it is. If you look at the research for EBV, it was very clear, very quickly for me, because there's research to support it, that the EBV can reactivate and become more aggressive when your nutritional status drops. So it's black and white. And then there is this protein called NF-kappa B. It's an inflammatory protein in your body. We all make it. To a degree, it's helpful, but too much is not good. But that's a protein that the virus likes to hijack to replicate. And so you go to McDonald's and have, a breakfast sandwich with hash browns. There was a study on that. 2 hours, 150% increase in NF-kappa B. One meal. But then you look in the medicine cabinet, anti-NF-kappa B, rosemary, garlic, zinc, resveratrol, omega-3, culinary herbs, lots of them. Chrysanthemum, you probably will enjoy chrysanthemum because you're probably familiar with chrysanthemum. Americans are now, there's this delicious chrysanthemum tea, everyone. Try that. And things like, so it was like opening a door to my candy store. I was like, oh, I know exactly where we are. Yeah.
That makes a lot of sense. So for many people, okay.
And one more thing is that, and this is where the functional medicine fails. I've been criticized once or twice. You don't talk about immune system enough. It's like, well, wait a second. Immune cells are cells. They're depleted in nutrients too. They require the same nutrients to function. Hello. I mean, we're just losing sight of simplicity of it. It's profound.
And it's all connected.
It's all connected.
So for many people who have EBV, yet like not many people know about it, because we know 95% of people who have the virus and don't know about it. So what is EBV?
It's the most common virus on the planet. It's been around for 10 billion years or so. 95% or more global population has it. We all walk with it. I had it probably in my life and didn't know it, didn't care until last fall. So I didn't have my story because I was fine. I kind of live an antiviral lifestyle because it's a healthy lifestyle. But it's an opportunist, so you will turn it on. It's like a computer virus, something turns it on. And in my case, it was mold. We were moving from one house to another 3 times in a row, 3 years in a row. I even ended up in ER once because of the impact the mold exposure had on me. I have severe allergies on skin, burning, itching, awful looking. I had to, cancel some appointments. So,
man.
So I am lucky because it's in my face. I have to remove myself, but it was expensive, stressful, and every home we moved into later had molds. Like, never underestimate a patient moving from one moldy house to another. This is the third one, and this one, the mold inspector missed it. So I had to get sick a little bit, recognize it somewhere, find it, remediate it. I have one more remediation to do. So, for most people, it's stress. Something really severe, personal, because it feeds on adrenaline and cortisol. Prime example is postpartum, when you have a baby. That's very stressful on the body. The hormones change so fast. And so that's often, unrecognized EBV infection. Sometimes it's diagnosed as depression, fatigue. Sometimes it's diagnosed as Hashimoto's, but Hashimoto's can also be triggered by EBV. That's one of the triggering factors. Yeah, so Hashimoto is also like under the radar. It's not properly tested. I have to train my community and all of that, and doctors and all of that, because these things are kind of missed all over the place.
Oh, wow.
So what are some ways we come in contact with EBV?
95+% has it. It's, kissing disease. Everybody has it.
Right.
But not everybody gets it.
Yeah. So when you have the symptom, what are some symptoms that people should pay attention of? Like if they have EBV infection?
Yeah. So first, fatigue. But it's different fatigue. It's not like fatigue after you exercise. It's like fatigue that is like you have 200 tons of bricks on you. And the way people say it is like a truck hit me over, or I've been run by a truck, or I can drag myself from the bedroom to the kitchen and I'm spent. It's unspeakable fatigue, which doctors don't understand because you don't have bleeding ulcers. Everybody thinks you're crazy and they put you on antidepressants, or they tell you to exercise, which is the worst. You can't exercise when you have EBV. And so that's fatigue, that kind of fatigue when no matter what you do, and functional doctors and NDs and acupuncturists and all your team is trying to help, but you can't get rid of it 100%. That's one. Number two, most common is brain fog. Sometimes people can't finish sentences, they forget, they can't focus. It's like, it's not them, it's like a veil.
Oh, wow.
So sometimes they feel they have cognitive decline, like, it's awful.
Oh, wow.
Because it's the oxidative stress, it's the toxins and free radicals getting in the brain. Sometimes the virus is in the brain. So then you can have fibromyalgia, you can get chronic fatigue syndrome. There's a laundry list of autoimmune disorders that are linked to EBV. Many of them can be triggered, like black and white. Celiac is one of them. MS is one of them. Diabetes type 1 is one of them. Juvenile rheumatoid arthritis, Crohn's and ulcerative colitis, lupus classic, rheumatoid arthritis classic. And then there's more, Sjogren's, there's just, I have a lot of these in the book and on the website with references in PubMed so people can see. There's just, and there's some kinds of cancers as well because it's oncogenic. There's more and more research on that. And then there's presentations that are different for different people. It could be skin rashes, the lymph nodes, oftentimes the, problem with throat, headaches. Actually, 75% have headaches.
Oh, wow.
Unrecognized fact, yes. Mosquito bites, people are sensitive. They get messy and really painful. That's one. Nosebleeds, odd things sometimes, skin rashes. Liver can be enlarged. Spleen can be enlarged. It can have connective tissue disorder. It can get into your brain. It can be in your vestibular ear nerve, and so it can cause ataxia or it can cause vertigo, buzzing and humming in the ear. I mean, you can go on and on and on and on. The point is, if you look at medical researchers are saying, if you have a patient and you put them on a protocol and they're not responding, and it's a chronic kind of mystery, condition, you need to test for EBV. And the same thing if you have idiopathic conditions, so you can't explain what it is, you should test it. So, the research is clear that it is a serious thing, but it hasn't caught up in the medical community yet. So they don't test because everybody has it.
Right.
If they test, they miss markers because the labs don't offer the whole panel. And if they get the test result, the interpretation is very poor because it's confusing. And they don't interpret it according to medical literature. So I had to create all this system, all the resources, all the foundational information. So finally we have it.
Wow.
Yeah. So we have it in the book. We have it on our website. We have one website where we want people to kind of get the right information. It's EBV Help, HELP. Very easy. EBV and help. EBVhelp.com. Yeah, because people can go for years. We just finished a workshop today and yesterday. I always ask question in the group, how many years do you think you've had it? 35, 40, 15. Once in a while, I get the newbie say, 1 year. So, yes,
Oh, wow.
great. But most is like all my life since childhood, all my adult life. Or somebody will say, well, I was diagnosed 2 years ago, but I think I've had it 40 years now that I understand or read the book, So it is a big deal.
That is a huge deal. Oh, wow. So then how does EBV impact our immune system?
Very smart. So basically, when it gets into your infected cell, typically B cells, your immune cells, and it starts using your nucleus, gets in there and makes RNA from your DNA, and then it starts multiplying. And so basically, your B cell becomes like a factory farming, little factory farm for EBV, baby EBVs. And so they and it fools the immune system. So there's a couple of things that happen normally. The cells, when they're infected, they can commit the so-called kamikaze. So they have apoptosis. That's a medical term when they self-terminate. I'm infected. I'm going to kill myself. It's amazing. So altruistic because it's dangerous to the rest. Imagine we have that system that's turned off by the virus.
Wow.
So the cell can't signal. And the virus uses different techniques to just kind of immobilize that cell and make it immortal. Even when people reactivate the virus, which is when those cells burst and the young virons, we call them, spill out in the blood. Okay, let's travel. Let's go to the liver. Let's go to the brain. Let's look for thyroid. I want to live there. So even when those cells burst and open, this is called lysing and reactivation of EBV, the cell doesn't die. In other viruses, when this happens, they die. It doesn't terminate. It's like perpetual cloning, and it keeps cloning. So it's like you have a factory of those B cells, and some of them become oncogenic. So it's like cancer cells. They keep replicating, right? There's no stoppers. So you have to turn this process on, turn this process down.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, so the immune cells are trying, but they can miss those cells because they're completely changed their function.
That's why all these symptoms that you mentioned, like, different organ, different body parts, is because they can literally go anywhere.
Depends, yes. When they lyse, they spill into the bloodstream and treat the bloodstream like a taxi. Take me somewhere. Where's the blood going? So it depends on the person. Goes to the brain, people lose hearing from the virus. They have encephalitis from the virus. It's just all kinds of presentations.
But some of them, if they don't lyse, if they don't activate, they stay dormant. So how do they become or stay dormant?
That's inside the B cells.
That's inside the B cell. Got it.
When they continue replicating. Until you keep hitting them, so they start turning off, and you kind of immobilize them and turn them off. So it has to go dormant. Because actually the virus relies on its livelihood, not in lysing reactivations, but on the latent periods between reactivations because of the cloning of the B cells. That's how it actually perpetuates. That's how it perpetuates.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah, so the longer it happens actively, it's also an active process. You do need to have certain nutrients and certain ducks in the row to turn all that off.
And then in terms of like flaring up, you mentioned a little bit about how environmental toxicant can flare up, but what are other core causes that can make a dormant EBV flare up?
Well, we talked about environmental toxins. We talked about diet. Stress is number one. We talked about that. I have like 2 pages of factors in our module 10. However, people typically know. They know, like, oh yeah, I remember, like, I lost my family members, I lost my home, a spouse cheated on me or something, that just the traumatic stress or mounting stress when you stretch thin and you don't have the resources, and you have your parents are dying and you have to care for them all. These are the this is where things happen. This is where it trickles into EBV.
So then if you have the stress, you started feeling, abnormal, like if you have, say, rashes or like unexplained symptom. So would you recommend, these are the signs that you should look for, and then, go to your doctor and get EBV tested?
Well, I wish I could say that. I have a lecture for doctors when I say, oh, typical problems, doctors don't want to test EBV because everybody has the markers and they're from your past and they have nothing to do with now. And also, once you have mono, the active infection, you never have it now again, which is not correct. It's not correct. You have something called chronic mononucleosis syndrome, which is very similar to chronic fatigue syndrome. So I would say that's why on our website we have a link to a direct-to-consumer lab, and they have the right markers, and people can locally go, sign up with them. It's direct without any doctor. They can get report, the complete panel within 48 hours, and they know what they have. And then we have everything on the website. We have interpretation on the website and in the book, so people, most people with chronic EBV are amazing individuals, the most trying, the most gritty people, really trying 12 different diets, doing everything with their doctors to try to get better, very smart and very committed. And so they will try to decipher all this while they're so sick. It's an amazing community.
Wow. But thank you so much for putting together these resources.
We got it. We got it. So it really, I am just, I am just so over the moon excited that we have a container and people they don't have to float around in Google. You can just, it's factual information. It's medically verified. We have the medical medium. That is a very different concept. And I needed to bridge that gap between the medical medium claims and the medical community because there was a sea of nothingness. And I decided, I just need to verify. I need to bring medical literature. I need to practice in my practice and see what works, which claims in medical studies actually work, what's practical, what's sustainable for people. And so that's how I got started. There's validation everywhere, but I felt my job on this planet was I needed to be that bridge.
And you're translating all the work for everyone.
Yeah, of course, because it's, you can get lost in the science of it. But, the book is not perfect. It's big. But it needed to be written. And I think it's helpful for doctors and it's helpful for their patients. And it's an eye opener, and it's just everything is in one place. So we finally have a concept of this virus.
Yeah. So you mentioned about food and nutrition, obviously. Yeah. So are there any foods that you should or should not eat when you have EBV?
So the biggest ones are eggs. Sorry about that. I have a blog about eggs and a chapter in my book and blog on that website. Why there's not many studies, but there's something going on with that. Dairy is huge. Sorry about that, folks. And then gluten would be the third one, just because, number one, the American wheat is so hybridized. It has such a negative impact on so many levels. And when people get sick from commercial wheat, for me, it's almost a normal reaction of the body saying, what is this?
Oh, wow.
Because if you eat traditional grain like spelt, that's also a form of wheat, but it's very traditional and it's a heirloom. You may do fine. However, it's not commercial, so you have to seek it out. However, gluten, like I mentioned, may be a partly problem with the celiac, because if you have celiac genes, there's a protein EBNA2. If it's in your infected B cells, it can actually go into the DNA area in your nucleus that codes for autoimmunity, and celiac is one of those autoimmune disorders. If you have genes they can start expressing. So people may have been fine eating gluten here and there before, but when they have EBV and it goes chronic, for some people, suddenly it's like an onset of celiac. They can't tolerate it anymore, and they may not know, because where did that come from? So there's science to support it. And so I would say, because of the industry and how insidious gluten is, it's in everything, and the quality is awful, it's not worth it. It can be dangerous. And for many people, like in the space where they're trying to heal from all kinds of autoimmunity and stuff like that, we always talk about, just get that out of your diet.
Just get it out.
Mm-hmm. So these would be the three big groups. I do not restrict other food groups, unlike functional medicine. I don't, for me, the most important thing is to rebuild your immune system with fiber, to support the Tregs, to support the colon integrity, and that comes with whole foods, plant-based diet. So if people are on very restrictive therapeutic diets like paleo, autoimmune paleo, low FODMAP, and whatnot, my responsibility is to say, why do you have to be so restrictive? What's happening in the gut? Because it's not, the foods are not the culprits. We are frutophobic in America. I'm not joking when I hear a nurse telling me that her boss, a gastroenterologist, told her, stop eating fruits, they have too much fructose. Okay. And the woman didn't eat them for 9 months, not a single fruit, because that's what, the functional doctors and doctors, practitioners don't realize people take things to extreme. They will continue on a detox diet for the 3rd year running because they don't know any better. These are short-term therapeutic diets. And I am a nutritionist, clinical nutritionist. Sometimes I have to do a lot of damage control and pick up the pieces and really go deeper. So people eventually heal the gut. We understand what happened, and they can expand on very healing food groups.
Wow.
Yeah.
So are there any supplement you would recommend?
Lots of them, strategic. But we are very aggressive. So I tend not to discuss that in social media because I discuss the dosages with each student, and there's counterindications, medications and whatnot. So we go really aggressive, and that's when the magic happens, when finally you start to turn it down. But the most important things to pick is supplements that multitask, and the best multitaskers are not herbs. Nope, they don't move the needle. It's the antioxidants / nutrients. Because when you look at research, the same things have antiviral, anti-EBV properties. It's like magic.
Would you say vitamin B, vitamin C, these are very potent ones?
Vitamin B, vitamin C, selenium, NAC, lysine. Licorice is the only botanical I start with, if people can handle it. Vitamin E. And then you work through these, and then you add later. But if it's EBV on its own, it's pretty straightforward with the protocol we created and the methodology and the journey. Oftentimes, though, EBV comes with a bucket, with friends, and that's, where you need a clinician. So I have that background to discern, what else is there? Are there co-infections? Is there mold? Is there Wi-Fi technology interfering? Wi-Fi is the big one, by the way. I would say the worst combo is EBV, Wi-Fi, like smart meter on your house, mold, and then you have mercury filling in your teeth, and you sit next to the router. That is a lethal combo when you have EBV.
Wow.
So when I developed vertigo, I had a smart meter. I just moved into this house. I was waiting for the smart meter to be removed. And and I didn't know at that time that the mold was missed. And so I already was compromised because of the mold. So that EBV had already reactivated before. But the smart meter was right there where I was sitting. And I sat there when we unpacked because I have a peekaboo view of water. It's like, I'm going to sit in that corner. It's like, they're going to take that smart meter out. I put it in a Faraday box, but it's only on the one side. And boy, I started to, so yeah, that's kind of, if you look at research, there's a little research, and that's all I needed to see. And then I started to pay attention in our community, like what is actually happening when we start watching people's stories and collecting data. It's kind of consistent. So yeah.
Oh, wow. So I know we're like running short on time, but I still have a few more questions. Do you still have time?
Yes, I do.
Okay, awesome. This is such a wonderful conversation. I'm so fascinated about this. Okay, I have 4 more questions. So one question is like, you mentioned that people would feel the stress is the trigger. So, when you have an EBV, what are some ways to support stress?
Oh, we have an entire module on that. You can, every woman needs B complex. Mm-hmm. These are stress vitamins. We use them. We need them every day. They need to be repleted. That's B methylated, nice, easily absorbable B vitamins. Hopefully some adaptogenic herbs. Mm-hmm. They talk to your adrenals and they tell your adrenals nobody's dying. There's no wolf chasing you. It's all okay. It's like cutting that jerk reaction. So adrenaline or cortisol is not being pumped. It's like, mm-hmm. Oh, okay, I'm fine. I take both every day because of the lifestyle we lead. Sleep and Wi-Fi. Turn down the volume on Wi-Fi. I am not joking. Every single person I meet these days in the last 6 months, check off the box. I use my iPhone as an alarm clock. I don't know what's going on. It's right next to your brain. No Wi-Fi in the bedroom, please. Mm-hmm. So that's very stressful on the body. So, there's like hygiene, sleeping hygiene, stress hygiene, saying no, delegating, having better boundaries, not taking too much on. That's our community. Our community, we call them EBV here or there, overgivers, overachievers, type A personality. Mm-hmm. So we joke, welcome to the overachiever, type A, overgiver, international anonymous club. Heart on the sleeve, kind of empathetic, giving, beautiful people. Very, very sensitive. So they're hit the hardest. So we actually, I just finished the workshop today. We do that workshop every 2 months when we reprogram the concept of self. Mm-hmm. I'm good enough. I'm lovable. I don't have to overachieve. I don't have to compensate. I don't have to overgive. I don't have to. I can let go. I'm perfect as I am. It's hard because there's a lot of hurt in that community. And right. That's why you have EBV. You have a lot of hurt. You have a lot of trauma. You have a lot of stress,
So it's really important for the individual to also realize that they have these characteristics so then they can start paying attention. Really important for the self-discovery.
Yes, it's a blessing and a curse, but I can tell you my job, I feel, is the physical healing. Yeah, we have that. But for me, the highest joy for me is to help these people discover that they have healing gifts, that they are healers. In other societies, they would be healers. They would be helping in some capacity. They have those qualities a lot in our community. And so if I can help them through the physical and then into the spiritual backbone and going after the dreams and honoring who they are and being of service to others, that's where the joy for me starts, when I can see that they're not, that they're walking that path. This is why they're on this planet. And the EBV is a big teacher because it's in your face saying you're doing something wrong, you're going the wrong direction, it's out of sync. Something is out of balance. There's too much, too little of something. pay attention.
Mm-hmm.
It's a terrible teacher. Make no mistake about it. But we have the system, so I know the healing is possible. And at the end of it, some people say, wow, what a teacher. I have an amazing life now, but I wasn't seeing it. I was hitting the wall. I was in corporate, or I was, I wasn't following my heart's desire, my gifts. I hope it resonates with our audience here.
Totally.
That's our community. Mm-hmm.
So now I want to talk about your program.
Yes.
Because I think it's amazing. So what is the EBV Recovery Program?
It is EBV Recovery Program, exactly.